because we wanted to take a bit of time today to share what's going on with the Community Cats Grants overview, Community Cats Grants overview, and cool tools. And we've got our own Brianna Lovell, who is the Hospitality Cat, an independent consultant. She's a Hospitality Cat at the Community Cats Podcast. So if you do get a Community Cats Pass, which we highly recommend, Bree is your liaison with the Community Cats Podcast, ensuring you're signed up for all the necessary sessions. She's also an independent consultant of Breezy Consulting. So Bree is the program manager for Community Cats Podcast Grants. She also is the administrative director for the United Spay Alliance, which is an organization dedicated to promoting accessible, affordable spay-neuter services around the country. Bree was recently also elected to the board of directors for the Community Cat Alliance in Winchester, Virginia. She's previously worked for Alley Cat Allies, where she held various management roles in outreach programs and events and led the charge for their flagship National Feral Cat Day and Global Cat Day campaigns. In 2020, she started working as an independent consultant to provide project management support to organizations serving animals. Bree holds a Master's of Public Administration degree from West Virginia University, and she currently lives in Maryland with her husband and their senior rescues.
All right, everyone, here we are for our Community Cats Grants presentation. So this is just going to be an overview of the grants program that we have here at the podcast. And so if you're unfamiliar, we'll tell you all about it, plus some changes we have in mind for 2023, very exciting. And then if you are participating with the grants program, or if you're just out there thinking the grants program, that's not for me, we have some cool tools and fundraising ideas to share with you. So please stick around. There's something for everyone, I promise. All right, so let's see, without further ado, I do want to know if we have any former grantees out there in the audience. So have you, or maybe your organization, one of the organizations you work with, participated in the grants program before?
So I just threw up the poll. Have you participated in the Community Cats Grants program before? Yes, no, I don't know.
Which is an okay answer. I'm just wondering.
Folks are voting. A couple more seconds and then I'll close the poll. So we have here 6% say yes, 82% say no, and 12% say I don't know.
Okay, well then good. I'm talking to folks who haven't participated with us before. Hello to the 6% who have. Hello, I hope you're doing well. And to everyone who hasn't participated, I hope that you might consider it after learning a bit more about our program. All right, so here we go. So what is the Community Cats Grants Program? I am so glad you asked. So it is a matching grant opportunity. So the first part of the grant cycle, we do ask organizations to fundraise, and we do challenge everyone to come up with something that is completely new. So a brand new fundraiser, nothing that's been on the calendar. It's not your annual gala or banquet that you plan. This is something new. And we're really challenging groups to kind of push their fundraising comfort zone a little, right? And see what else that they can come up with that might be a new kind of fun revenue stream, a new way to engage with the community, a new way to bring new donors into the organization. And so the fundraising is part one, and then Community Cats Podcast will match up to a certain amount of that fundraising. And it all goes to support spay and neuter for community cats. Now, the ideal applicant for this, it's really targeted toward grassroots groups. And so if you have never applied to a grant before, if you have just a very limited fundraising program at present, this is the grants program for you. It was really designed to help you to kind of build your confidence, build your comfort level, build your experience with things like grants and fundraising. So we're ideally looking for 501c3 organizations that have less than $100,000 in revenue. We are looking for groups that have been around at least 2 years, and that's just kind of a common thing you'll see among grant makers, is that gives you a little bit of a track record to go off of when you're deciding whether or not to fund a grant. And of course, we want to know that you're regularly working with trap, neuter, return, or community cats. And so that has to be a part of your program. It's something that I want to see on your websites or mentioned on your social media. If all I see is that you worked with adoptables and there's no mention of community cats, I mean, that's just something that I take into consideration when I am looking at applications. And then here at the bottom, a big one is organizations that have claimed and updated their GuideStar profile. And GuideStar is, honestly, it's becoming kind of like the industry standard. If you are applying to grants, it's something that grant makers are going to look at. I just recently learned that it's also part of like Facebook. If you want to raise money on Facebook, you have to have a GuideStar profile, or that factored into it somewhere. But GuideStar is important, and it's something that isn't just us asking for it. This is kind of across the board. Donors will also look you up on GuideStar. So just kind of all around, highly recommend whether you're applying to our grant or not. So that is the grant in a nutshell and how it works. You see the link down there. The link will appear again, so don't freak out if you don't have the link yet, and I think you have the slides anyway. But our grant program has been around since 2017, and I think these are some really fun statistics. We are on group 16, and now when I say group, when we do our grant cycles, we kind of have a cohort of many organizations who are going through the same grant process at one time. So we just, group 16 recently started their fundraising, and there are about 25 groups or 25 organizations in group 16 of the grants program. So that's what I mean by that we've had at least 16 cycles, as it were, 221 grantees throughout those 16 cycles. Those grantees have gone out there and fundraised over $323,000 to support their programs. Community Cats Podcast has given over $191,000 in grants, and all of that has helped over 10,000 community cats receive spay and neuter surgery. So that is a pretty cool impact, if you ask me. So this program's been going strong since 2017, and we decided to change things up a little bit for 2023. So previously our grant was for $1,000 match, and so we had overall you walked away with $2,000. That $1,000 that you had fundraised, $1,000 from the podcast for $2,000. Now we're upping that amount to $2,000. So if you fundraise $2,000, you'll receive a $2,000 match from the podcast, which is pretty cool. We're doubling the money, and we're expanding the parameters of what that grant can be used for. So before it was very focused on just specifically the spay neuter for community cats, and so it was just that subsidy for the surgery. So now we're expanding it to be more inclusive of the spay neuter process, and so it is still, if you want to use it to cover the cost of cats or community cats, still community cat focused, but community cats being spayed and neutered, you can do that, but it can also be used to support spay neuter clinics, and whether it is that you need equipment for those clinics or medications or what have you. So still very much community cat focused, spay neuter focused. This still does not cover the cost of like trapping equipment for TNR. This does not cover any kind of extra medical costs that might come up. I know sometimes we bring those kitties in and they need extra surgeries or extra medications for some other illness unrelated to spay neuter. So those things still have to come from a separate bucket. But for the purpose of this grant, we are looking at the broader spay neuter of community cats category. So those are some very cool changes that we have in store for next year's grant groups and beyond. So $2,000 match and expanded spay neuter coverage. So we have all of this information on our website, and I think I'm not sure if we've gotten the information about 2023 up there yet, but if we haven't, please keep an eye on the website. We have 2 grant cycles per year, and so the first application deadline is the end of February, and so if you apply in February, you would hear about your application in the end of March, and fundraising would begin in April. If you apply in the summertime, if you apply at the end of July, you would hear about your application in August with fundraising to begin in September. And your fundraising, you have about 3 months to implement and execute and raise all the funds. So if you are in February, that would give you, let's see, March, April, May, June, you would be fundraising, April, May, June. And then if you apply for fall, winter, you're fundraising September, October, November. So if that's helpful information, there you go. And again, you have that link down there at the bottom. You can find it on our website, the grants program, the application. The application is very straightforward. And then if you ever have any questions, of course, you can always get in touch with us, and I'll have my email at the end of our presentation here. So before I go any further, are there questions? Just checking in. That was a lot of information.
There's one question in here, Bree. So one person asked, our rescue does not do TNR, but we promote it on our website. Is there a Community Cats grant for us?
So if you are involved in the spay neuter process, so maybe you don't do TNR yourselves, but you provide, like, you cover the cost of spay neuter for folks maybe who are doing that TNR. Again, it has to be community cat focused. So I would say that's where your opportunity is. If you're a rescue that's focused just on adoption, right now our grants program doesn't cover adoption.
I believe that's it for the questions.
All right, excellent, very cool. All right, so now we're going to move into the cool tools and all the tips and things that we have to share. So like I said, we've been doing this from 2017. So over time, we have collected some ideas. Basically, we're stealing from all of the grant groups that have had a lot of success, come up with great ideas, because we're all in this together, right? And so it might as well share the cool ideas with one another so that we can all be successful, and then we can all help more cats. And that's what it's all about. So here are just some cool tools for your toolbox. The first one is TechSoup.org. And now this is, if you are a nonprofit, you can sign up with TechSoup. And it's basically a way for you to save money when you get different either hardwares or softwares. And so this is things like if you need a new CRM or donor management tool, some sort of system to help you manage all of the contacts that you're working with. I think they have for like email servers, you can, if you need like something like a MailChimp or whoever sending out your email to your lists, I'm pretty sure you can find those through TechSoup. I know I was looking up recently for accounting tools, so you can get things like QuickBooks, all at a discount. So you're not paying more for those things than you absolutely have to. So TechSoup, definitely recommend that if you need to get involved in any of those things. Canva.com is something I highly, highly recommend if you find yourself needing to do any of the graphic design work for your organization, and maybe that's not your forte. Canva has got your back. They do have a free account, so anyone can join, and they have different templates for you to use. They have different stock photos that are available even at the free level that you can use, and it's everything from like social media graphics, and they have them kind of pre-sized for you to be optimized for Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever you're doing. And you can also do posters and flyers. You can do email banners. You can do business cards and certificates. If you're hosting a workshop and you want to give out certificates, they have so many things. Anything that needs to be designed, you can do it on there. And if you do upgrade to a pro account, you can also, and I think it's like minimal cost. I think it was only like between $10 or $15 a month for that kind of pro account. You can add members to your team, and you can also build your brand within Canva, where you can upload your logo, you can preset your colors, you can select your fonts. So anytime you go to build something, you just have to click a few buttons and it's already like branded for you in exactly the right way, which I thought was just really cool. It saves a lot of time. And if you're someone like me who just isn't very strong in the visual display department, I mean, what you see here in this presentation is all a Google template. I am not your graphic design kind of person, but Canva makes it look like I am. So I highly recommend that. GivingGrid.com is a fun way to jazz up your online donations. And so I know a lot of us are out there using maybe Facebook, asking for folks just to give through that simple Facebook fundraising tool that they have on your posts, which is fine. But GivingGrid kind of takes it up a notch and adds a little bit of more engagement. It's an actual, and it can look different ways for different things. But like they have a $5 Fridays template that you can use, and it is literally, it looks like a grid on your screen, and donors can come in and they can click on a little box and they can buy that box basically, and they can upload a photo of their pet or whatever it is that you want them to do, and they help you fill in the grid. So it's almost like a visual bingo card, as it were. Pardon me, as it were. So it's pretty cool. Instrumental that you see there at the bottom, it's instrumental.com. I apologize, I didn't get the whole link in there. But Instrumental is a tool for grants. If you want to research grant opportunities, it's great for prospecting, so doing all of that grant research, but it also has built-in tools for grant tracking throughout the process, and you can track where you are in the application process. You can set reminders for when reports are due. So Instrumental is a very cool tool that has a lot of usability. It's one of the best prospecting tools I've seen in the grants world of things. It makes the job a lot easier, saves you a lot of time. So I highly recommend Instrumental. It's something that we do have access to here at the podcast. And so if you have questions, I'm sure if you want to reach out to us, neither Stacy or I would mind telling you all about it. So some other tools that you might want to use for your organization or for your fundraising programs. I've seen a lot of success from groups through, like, if they want to do t-shirt sales, using something like bonfire.com or customink.com. They both have nonprofit fundraising platforms kind of set up within their systems, where if you have a cool t-shirt design that you want to make available to your supporters, maybe you have an artist or someone who has this really cool idea for a t-shirt, you can go to either of those websites, and I'm sure there are more out there. This is by no means an exhaustive list of all the things. These are just ones that we have seen work pretty recently here. But those companies will take the orders, and then they will handle all of the fulfillment for you. So as an organization, once you get everything set up and you have your design, you publicize it, so you share it with your lists and your supporters, you get those sales generated, and then Bonfire and Custom Ink will take care of all the work of printing and shipping and doing that for you. So that's pretty cool, right? Minimal effort. We like that. GoGo Photo Contest is a platform for online photo contests. You can also use it if you want to turn that photo contest into a calendar. So if you have like an annual calendar and you want folks to vote on the photos that ultimately are selected for that calendar, it is something that you can do on there as well. They send you pretty much like a Word document with a bunch of questions, and you fill in that information and then you send it back, and they build your website for you. And they tell you that it'll take like a week or so, but I turned it in at like 5 o'clock one night, and when I logged on the next morning, it was already done. So they have excellent customer service. When I have worked, in my experience, when I have worked with them, they've had great customer service, great turnaround time, and it's just, again, it's a fun way to engage your supporters, to give in a way that they can, it's a bit more tangible than just a simple Facebook kind of fundraiser. If you're into online auctions, then there are platforms like betterworld.org, Bidding for Good. Rally Up is another one I have heard being used recently. So all of those silent auctions and things that we used to do in person, of course, thanks to COVID, we all shifted to that online world. But honestly, I've seen great results. I've heard of organizations having great results, I should say, using these kind of online platforms. And they can even take care of the bidding sheets for you if you're doing partly online, partly in person. You can do kind of a hybrid with these sorts of things as well. So I definitely recommend those two. And then, like I said, Rally Up, R-A-L-L-Y Up was another one that a grantee currently is using and had good things to say about it. So those are some cool tools. At least I think they're cool. I hope you think they're cool. And so I thought we would round out our presentation just by going over some of the fundraising ideas. Like I said, since 2017, we have seen a lot of different groups come and bring their ideas to the table. And those fundraisers, you know, I think if one group does something and it works really well, I like to share that with folks. I like to steal that idea and make sure other folks can, you know, implement it and see what success they might have. because again, we all just want to have successful fundraisers because we all just want to help the kitties. So I have the next few slides are just different fundraising ideas, and in no particular order, but they kind of go from some of the more, things that we might hear of more traditionally to some of the more creative. So see what you think. Of course, I've mentioned Facebook fundraisers. I think this is probably the one I see most often. It's kind of like the donation jar of like the 2022 era, right? You just kind of constantly have that Facebook fundraiser, that donate button going, activating it whenever you can to just generate those donations online. You can do a tabling event like you see pictured here from Spay and Neuter Nation in our group 15. And as you see here, you find yourself a good spot. I think they're in one of the pet stores here. I love that they have this little temperature gauge to show you exactly how much money they've raised or where they need to go. They are also doing a t-shirt sale. They're also doing a donation jar you see there. So they've got it all covered. So simple tabling events, always a classic. Donation jars, of course, a car wash never goes out of style. The spaghetti dinners and the banquets like that. Restaurant nights where you're partnering with a local restaurant. I say local, you can partner with any restaurant, but I find that the local chains are much easier to work with than any of like the chains that have like a national or regional or corporate presence, because they always have so much red tape. But you go to those local restaurants and they are usually more than happy to work with you. Yard sales and rummage sales, always a classic. And then you could go into more in-person mingly type of things, like a nice mixer or a cocktail hour. Like you see pictured here, this was Cocktails for Cats with Companion Animal Trust, again in our group 15. So shout out to them if you happen to ever be in the audience or listening to this. A reverse raffle. And so I like a reverse raffle because this is specifically for the people who say that they never win anything. Because rather than, your typical raffle where it's like you pull a name out of the hat and that's the name that wins, in a reverse raffle, you pull all the names out of the hat and it's whoever's the last one to come out. That's who the winner is. Instead of the first name, it is the last name. So again, it's just a fun little twist to keep it interesting. Food sale fundraisers. This goes back, I remember selling like pizza kits when I was in like middle school for like whatever sports team I was on. Krispy Kreme fundraisers have been popular these past couple grant cycles. I know we had someone in group 15 do that, and we have someone currently in group 16 starting out to do Krispy Kreme fundraisers. So think of whatever it is your community likes to enjoy and see if they do any kind of food sale fundraisers. Kitten or puppy yoga. So if you have anyone in your network who owns a yoga studio or has access to a yoga studio and might want to do a nice little yoga session, it's always easy to convince people to come out and do yoga, especially if you tell them there'll be kittens or puppies involved. A kitten shower, and so this works especially in the springtime when people are a lot of baby showers and such. But this can support your kitten foster programs, or I should say, you can raise donations during that same kitten shower. So instead of bringing baby supplies, they're bringing you kitten supplies, and they can also donate in lieu of a gift, right? Online photo contests and online auctions, I think we've kind of already talked about in our cool tools section, but those again have been successful fundraisers. If you have a nice wide audience, a good mailing list that is ready to engage with you online, those can always be successful. Even more fundraising ideas for you. I think I heard in the last presentation, someone is having that 45th anniversary. So latching on to those sort of milestones, whether it is your 45th anniversary of being an organization or whether it is your 5,000th TNR surgery, or we had a group that was actually, they'd only been around 9 years, and so they played with the number 9 and they called it their Cat O' Nine Tails fundraiser, and they had asked people for $9 donations, and they just used the number 9 anywhere they could, and it worked. It worked for them. It got them over that $1,000 fundraising mark, which was very, very cool. Kitten naming parties are very fun because you're asking folks, if you have like a litter of kittens, you put it out there to your community, like, we need to name these kittens. Give us a $5 donation and you can submit a name. And that name will be put into, again, like a raffle, put the names in the hat. Everyone can donate a certain amount and to have their name thrown into the mix. And then you do, it's even as simple as just doing like a Facebook Live where you're pulling names out of the hat, and that's how those kittens get their names, as people donate to name your kittens. That's pretty cool. Themed craft nights, and so capitalizing on like the holiday, we had a grantee, I guess it had to be last year at this point, a grantee did kind of a Halloween themed cat craft night, and I think they even had a volunteer in their midst who like designed cat toys like professionally, which how cool is that to have a volunteer who has that skill set in your wheelhouse. So that's pretty cool. But anyone can host a craft night. Those are always fun, almost like a paint and sip. When you go and you paint a picture and you sip on some wine, hang out with your friends, you can make that into a themed fundraiser for cat toys. So that's kind of cool. Pet portrait roulette, and that is what you see here. And I honestly, this is one of my favorite fundraisers, I think, because I always love when people give me any kind of picture of my pets. And so pet portrait roulette, people donate and send in a picture of their pet, and then a volunteer will draw their pet photo. But the roulette part is because you don't know if the volunteer is actually a good artist or not. So you might get a masterful work of art, like to me, that like picture of the cat in the top left corner, like that is art, right? Someone knew what they were doing. Or you might get someone who tries their best but is not the best artist. And like the cat, like honestly though, I think that cat in the bottom right corner is probably better than anything I could draw. But like, again, two very different cat portraits that you're looking at there. But all fun, all going to a great cause. And I think people love getting, again, people are going to donate because they want to see pictures of their pets, right? Working with things like drag queen events. I know brunches and bingos have been very successful, and so seeing what kind of groups might be ready to work with you and support your cause. And then one of the more recent things that happened that just proved wildly successful and so simple to execute was a nail trim clinic. So, I mean, just the overhead is very minimal on that. But if you are confident clipping some nails for dogs and cats, and you want to contact, I think they hooked up with their local Petco, and they just set up a table like one weekend a month, and they just started taking appointments for donations, and it was wildly successful because people don't like trimming their own pet's nails, and you can truly bring in some donations that way. And I think they were even being contacted by other pet stores who had heard about them coming and setting up this little nail trim table. So that they were like in demand. And again, very minimal overhead there, right? And just really, really cool profit and good word of mouth in the community, truly. So those, I mean, I just spat a lot of really, a lot of fundraising ideas at you that may or may not have been helpful. But here are just a couple more to round things out because we are heading into the holiday season. So as we're thinking about our end of year campaigns, I encourage you to think how you can get a little bit creative and use the time of year to your advantage. Of course, I'm sure we've been talking about Giving Tuesday already. So what can you do around Giving Tuesday? Maybe leveraging those online fundraisers. Maybe it's a giving grid. Maybe it's a photo contest. Some other fun ideas are like offering gift wrapping services. If you have, if you or a couple volunteers happen to be pretty decent at wrapping some gifts, I'm sure there are people out there in your community who would pay you to take care of that for them. So if you don't mind putting in a little time wrapping some gifts this holiday season, I'm sure there's room to make some extra dollars for your organization. Of course, again, pictures with pets, man. Pictures with Santa can probably be a good fundraiser for you. Or if you want to leverage that matching gift for your end of year donations as a secret Santa, that's like a fun little twist on things for folks. So those are just, again, things we have seen be successful and we want to share with you all. So that has been the grants program in a nutshell, kind of what we have in store next year, and hopefully one or two nuggets of creative ideas that you might take with you into your own fundraising.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Bree. That was great. One quick question before we switch over. I know we're a little bit behind on time, but there was one question. So the applications, when they're received, February 28th or July 31st? What's the actual 3-month fundraising window?
Yes, very good question. And so let's see, if it's in February, then I'll be reviewing all those applications in March. You would be starting your fundraising mid-April. Yes, April. So it'd be April, May, June is your fundraising period. And now for July, so I would be in August, I would be reviewing those applications and notifying you by the end of the month. So your fundraising period would be September, October, November. So we got about 3 months to raise that money.
Excellent. Wonderful.